because, technically, to Eric, Tampa is a new market, and he's just basically duplicating what he's been doing in Cincinnati, right? Getting out there, meeting people, meeting investors. So he's already submitting offers here in Tampa. So today's topic is how to analyze a deal, a flip deal accurately, right? And this one is actually going to be one that he was going after with his investors here in Florida, in Land O'Lakes to be exact. So that's kind of cool. But from what I understand, they were a little late to the party. But either way, we're going to use it as a case study to kind of show you, a tool that I've been using, gosh, from the beginning, dating back to 2010, when we developed this deal analyzer. And it's been, I mean, like, so valuable. Like, I can't even put a price tag. I don't know what I would pay a lot of money for this deal analyzer, because it saved me a ton of time. It's very easy to have interns. We had 3 interns locking up deals for us in San Diego back in 2010, 11, 12, 13, in those years. And they were just plugging in numbers into the deal analyzer to spit out what we are able to offer on a property. It was that simple. So, but first we need to understand how to use it. We need to understand the market, which we're not going to go into, how we're going to comp the property today. That's not the case, the point of today's training. It's understanding, okay, if we know the ARV, if we know the numbers, the big 3, what's the after repair value? What is the rehab number? How much are we willing to offer, right? And is that going to be accurate, in terms of the profit that we're looking to make, right? So that's the fun part. And we're going to make some tweaks to the deal analyzer that can literally double, triple your returns when you were not even expecting it. So I'll show you that a little bit later. So Eric, I know you shared some links. So before you share your screen, if any of you are not part of the Facebook group, he shared a link there. So feel free to join the group. That's where we're going to post the recordings of this, make any other future announcements. And then also he shared our YouTube channel, which you could also find the recordings there. So if you could subscribe to that and give us a thumbs up there, that would be awesome. So Eric, share. I'm going to let you share your screen. Take it away for now.
Awesome. Let me get this top one. It's gonna, okay, cool. It did not repeat me, which is always good. Man, the thing drives me nuts. Okay. So this one, I'll kind of start how I found the deal and then how I kind of got it running. So Land O'Lakes is that's actually where we live. It's a little bit outside of Tampa. It's about 20 minutes north. This property was built in 1960. I have the Zillow link, and then I also have our MLS link pulled up. But this actually came through my MLS on one of my investor setups. So this one, care, and care is weirdly one of the ones that we have that is our trigger words. It's a common word that tends to be used when a house needs a home, whether
So
it
you
says
mean you mean, to be clear, you have filters set up with keywords, and one of those keywords is care.
Yeah.
And then you got an email because of that keyword with this listing notification.
Yep.
Got it.
So got it in, kind of knowing Land O'Lakes, knew what to expect with this one. So I had a good feeling, like, so it's pending right now, but 350 350 is a really good price over here, especially when I started to dig into it. It's sitting on a freshwater little lake area. And that little lake is, I mean, it's a small lake. It's nothing major, but it's very good for like water activities. Anytime you have a waterfront property, people tend to love it. So the more that I kind of looked into this, and I'll go, Zillow's actually a little bit smoother than our MLS in terms of look. So right here, I could kind of tell based off where the house was situated. We were like right in this back area, got a nice little lake area. And this is somewhere people typically want to be just based off of schools. The size of a home and the lot were also interesting. A lot of lots, I mean, 0.3 acres, and everywhere else is not very large, but in Florida, that's a good lot size. So found this 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,900 square feet, ran comps on it, and conservatively, like, not going crazy on the rehab, not doing anything too crazy. I had our comps at 500. I had a pretty good feeling on this one that if we listed the property, I'd be able to get probably closer to around 520, 530. Um, but when I'm analyzing it for an investor, I almost want it to be worst case scenario. I actually did run this back about a month and a half ago. It's been a while. So our market was still kind of slow then, and I wanted to assume longer days on market, not getting the highest price that I could possibly get for the property. So 500 ARV is kind of where I started. We'll do the deal analyzer with Randy here shortly, but typically off the top of my head, I'm always going to run it 70% minus rehab is going to be what we can offer on a property. So 70% of 500 is going to put me at 350. So it's going to put me directly at this number. And then what I'm going to want to do is typically go behind that. I'm going to want to pretty much start how much are the rehabs going to be like. So realistically, what I'm going to base my offer is going to be basically this 350 minus rehab. So that's when I'd look through the photos, which I'll do here shortly. So that's just how I kind of know, like, hey.
So what you mentioned, you mentioned the Mayo formula, right? Which I personally don't like, and a lot of investors use it, and I don't like it for many reasons, because I feel like you can miss a lot of deals. So you can, I guess, get to the point where the offer is going to be way too low, where you could have gone
Yeah.
a lot higher, or it could be the other way around. So, however, I think it's good to know that the Mayo formula, it's not the mayo that you put on your sandwich. Okay. It stands for maximal allowable offer. Okay. A
Yep.
lot of investors and realtors use that language and use that formula for like a quick calculation. I advise against it, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
teach, personally, I've never used it. I know what it is. And it's basically, is it 70% of ARV, correct?
Yeah, so it's 70% ARV minus rehab.
Minus rehab. So that if your ARV is 500 and you took 70% of that, that's 350 minus 100,000, that would put you at 250. Now, is that a good offer? If he got this property at 250, and I'll show you on the, when I open up the deal analyzer, that would be a great deal. Now, would he be able to get it at 250? I would guarantee you that probably the answer is no. Okay. And then he would have been leaving basically money on the table in terms of not getting the deal because of using the Mayo formula. Now, I think it's more of a calculation that investors do and say, you know what, conservatively, if I get Mayo, I'm good. But in reality, they usually go above that. Would you agree, Eric?
Yeah, we use it basically to say, like, are we in the ballpark? So like what I'll typically use it for with a lot of my investors is if they send me a deal and let's say I run the ARV and it's 400 and it's listed at 380, I junk it. Or if it's like 350 and then the ARV is 400, I junk it because I know like the offer that I have to put into it is way too low. So, but I know that like, so using 70% of 500 puts me at 350. I know like, okay, I'm minusing repairs. This is already listed needing rehab. So I can take that and start to basically go in and minus out the repairs. And then once we actually, so we kind of use it as like, that's our first filter for a property. And then once we walk it is where we start to make those final determinations of like, okay, this yard isn't laid out like we thought it was. Maybe it's not actually a 500 ARV, or maybe this is a larger rehab than expected. So it's not going to make sense with offering even 250. So we use it as kind of like a
Gauge.
baseline. Is this even
Yeah.
a deal or not?
Yeah. Should we look further? Now, let me ask you, did you actually go to the property, or how did you determine the rehab number? Was it just through photos and talking to the listing agent?
Yeah, this one I didn't go to the property, and I actually, so this one, and I'll kind of walk through what I'm thinking mentally when I'm running numbers, and I'll even pull up my calculator and kind of show you. It'll be kind of quick, but for this one, I assumed, I mean, you can tell vanity's messed up. Windows, there's a couple photos from the windows. You can tell they're a little bit older vinyl. Bathrooms need gutted, kitchen needs gutted, flooring is outdated. Chimney actually looks pretty reasonable from photos. So if we have any leaning in the chimney or something like that, that's concerning, but I don't see anything there. No gutters. I would add gutters, even though they're not very common in Florida. Brick exterior, which isn't very common too. So it's actually kind of a nice thing. Like you're not going to have to re-stucco. So typically when I look at these photos, I can get an idea, like I can tell right away this roof needs replaced.
Right.
AC unit, you can tell is actually newer, even though it's kind of farther away, just looking at so many of them. Exterior door right there needs replaced, going to replace the sliding glass doors. Some of these windows will replace, or would replace, I should say. So we base it off photos. I've looked at it enough at this point to at least get me in the
Yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. I think by looking at the photos, you can tell it needs everything, basically,
Yeah.
inside,
Yep.
outside. So you already know your numbers. You have your number of about 100,000 should be enough to do all of that. Talk to the listing agent to see if there's anything else maybe that you can't see that they might mention, like, oh, maybe there's I don't know, a cracked slab, or who knows, right? Things that
Yeah.
the photos won't reveal, but the agent might say, or maybe the description might tell us,
Mhm.
right? But okay, so majority of the properties you're looking at for your investors, you're able to look at it through the photos, talk to the agent if you need to, determine the rehab number, and literally submit an offer. And then if it gets accepted, then you guys go and confirm everything.
Yeah, or even if we like look at it, so like this one was one that I sent out to three different investors that fit three of my investors' buy boxes in the Tampa area. And if
Yep.
any of them, like typically what I'll do is I'll send it out and say, hey, let me know when you want to go take a look at this. Here's the numbers, kind of break it down in an email. Like this is what I'm thinking, like ARV is going to be, this is what our rehab budget's going to be. This is what, this is where it fits. This is what your estimated takeaway is going to be, just kind of ballparking it. If they're like thumbs up, let's go take a look at it, then I'd go schedule it and we do a deeper dive. And that's when I'm actually going to walk around with the notepad and, new roof. It's a pretty large roof on this one. So new roof is going to be, we'll say 15K, 4 windows replaced. And that's when I'll actually break down the cost with them, or we'll do it with a GC.
Perfect.
And then and sometimes we'll even do inspections too. Like this one sits on a septic. Septic is going to absolutely 100% be inspected. And we'll probably like one on this, we would actually offer like, you know, the inspection period is just for informational purposes only, except for septic. Whatever is requested on septic repairs is to be taken care of by the seller, just because it's such a pain if you have some major issues with the septic.
Perfect. Okay, so let's assume that I'm one of your investors and you sent it to me. So let me can I share my screen now? Pull up the deal
Yeah.
analyst. Because this is what I would do, right? If I'm the investor looking at this and Eric submitted this to me, do you see which screen do you see?
Investor agent one.
Okay.
Just a bunch of pictures of me. I don't know if anybody's pieced this together from our group, but every YouTube clip ends up
I know,
going.
I don't know why, man.
YouTube likes to pull my face.
Where's my deal analyzer? All right. I think this is the one. Oh, here we go. There you go. Okay, cool. Now we're good.
Got it.
Got it. All right, cool. So this is the deal analyzer that I've used for over a decade, or close to a decade, more than a decade. Gosh, It's been a long time. So if Eric gives me the numbers, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see here. Can everybody see it? Maybe give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Maybe I can even zoom in a little bit more on some of this stuff right here. All right, cool. So on the deal analyzer, I have several tabs. I have the deal information tab, and this is where I'm going to start entering the information about the actual property. So Eric just said after repair value is 500,000. He said the purchase price that they were thinking about offering, he told me, when we talked earlier, they were thinking about offering 300,000. By the time the investors got back to him, the deal was done. And this is what, we've shared this before, like deals on the MLS don't last long. Like you got to act fast, right? That's a whole different lesson. But estimated rehab cost 100, hold time 6 months, from buying, rehabbing, and selling, right? I would say for most investors, this is what I would recommend you use. The ones that are a lot more experienced and maybe the rehab is lighter, this could get shaved down to maybe 4 months, especially in a seller's market. But in general, we like to use 6 months. Property taxes, we pull that off the MLS listing sheet. Insurance, this is going to vary based on where you are. I put 2,500 for builder's risk, annual, could be up, could be a little lower, could be a little higher. It's not going to make a difference if it's, off by $500. This one has no gas, no water. It's on well. And it's got electricity. So we put 120 per month. And so that would be the deal factors that I would be plugging in. And I'll come back to the purchase price because that's going to start impacting the profitability of the deal later. Then
Yep.
I need to know financing. So Eric, you mentioned to me earlier when we spoke that this client is using hard money, correct?
He is, yeah.
So he will be financing because he's experienced. This hard money lender is actually going to finance 100% of the deal, which I will tell you is rare. Most hard money lenders will lend 80 to 90%, right? Where the buyer has to bring in 10 or 20% down payment, and they will then also finance the rehab cost, okay? Now, they're not going to release and give that money to the investor. They're going to keep it in an escrow account and release it in draws based on progress of the rehab, okay? So in this case, Eric shared this investor is actually getting 100% of the purchase price and is getting 100% of the rehab cost from this hard money lender with 2 points and 12% interest. So I would put 2 points right here, loan points, and interest rate is 12. I would put that over here, which would make the loan amount 400,000. So if you look at purchase price is 300 plus 100, that's how you come up with 400,000 if he were to buy it for 300 with a rehab cost of 100,000. So that's why the loan amount becomes 400,000. Eric shared with me that he would be coming up with the money, the buying costs out of his own pocket. He would be paying the holding cost out of his own pocket. And usually with hard money lenders, there's going to be a monthly payment, right? So all we have to do is put yes or no. And if there's no monthly payment, it will calculate it correctly on the other sheet. In this case, there is a monthly payment and it's going to be estimated at $4,000. Okay. So what else? So since there's no second mortgage, this is blank. Okay. So I don't enter anything in here. This is only a first loan. That's all they got. Title insurance. I don't know for Florida if this is accurate. You might not know this, Eric. I don't want to put you on a spot, but I'm just going to leave
It's
that.
pretty close.
Pretty close, probably. Miscellaneous buying costs. I'm going to put 1,200. Between escrow and title and recording costs, whatever. Probably 2,200 is a fair number in closing costs. Or is that low?
What was it?
2,200 for total closing costs.
It's a little low.
Without title. Without title.
Oh, without title, yeah, that's about right. It's not.
Okay.
We don't have too crazy.
Okay. Perfect. And then on the selling costs, Eric said that he's going to be listing this property if they were to get it at 6%, offering 3 to the buyer's agent and you keeping 3. Is that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So we put 6% there. Then we got your transfer conveyance fees, which I don't know what it is for Tampa, but I'll just leave what we have in here for now. Miscellaneous selling costs. This could be, notary fees, things of that nature. Staging. I'm guessing he's going to stage. I don't know. Does this investor stage? Do you know?
I've only staged one property in my entire life, and it was $1 million property. So most of them I don't.
Oh, they don't stage. Well, not you, but the investors don't stage.
No,
Wow.
I've never had an investor stage.
Okay, well then let's put 0. Well, in San Diego, I mean, 90% of my investors stage. So crazy.
Nice. Yeah, none of mine. Never had anybody do it.
All right, so I'll remove that. Fair. Escrow attorney fees, 1,000. Recording, home warranty, marketing costs are going to fall under the realtor, so 0 there. There's your selling cost, give or take. If we're off by a 500 or 1,000, again, it's not going to make or break the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you get your rough numbers that for your market, this is where you put it in. And the way this is designed, this deal analyzer, that the yellow ones, you should not have to edit per deal. Like these are standard for whatever your market that you're in terms of your buying and selling cost. Everything in yellow should, once you decide what those numbers are, should be not edited technically, right? So then all you're really focusing on is the things that are in the white, right? The white cells. That's what you're editing. All right, cool. So once I input all this, it takes all the information and spits it into this second sheet, which is the deal analyzer for flips. And notice it carries over the $500,000 after repair value, the repair costs, purchase price. So everything I entered there, it carries it over, but it also starts calculating our holding costs automatically, right? So there's a lot of formulas built into this deal analyzer, so I don't have to do it in my head, right? I need to be able to plug things in quick, right? On the first sheet, and just tell me where I'm at. Like, what do I need to be offer-wise to make this deal work? And then on to the next one, right? So when you look at the first mortgage, everything is calculated here. $8,000, that's the 2 points, right? Because 1 point is basically 1% of the loan amount. So if I'm borrowing 400,000, 1 point is 4,000. We're paying 2 points. That's $8,000. Okay. And you pay that basically upfront, right? First mortgage interest is 12% annually. Okay. So based on our 6 months hold time, it automatically calculates it and says that we're going to actually spend $24,000 in interest over the 6 months period, right? If we kept the property for a year, that number would be 48,000, right? It would be double, right? So my total first mortgage cost, it adds up quick. Hard money is expensive. It's 32,000, okay? No second mortgage, so those are zeros, and there's just a small miscellaneous financing cost that we always like to stick in there for 500. And then the holding costs, they're all broken down by monthly on purpose because it's all then auto-calculated by the amount of hold time we put in on the sheet, the first sheet. So we need to know how much is property taxes per month to calculate our holding costs correctly based on our hold time. So this is where it breaks it all down for us and starts calculating the actual holding costs per month, right? Per 6 months. And then you got your buying fees that we entered. So all of this gets carried over and calculated on this end. Here's your realtor fees, 6%, that's 30,000. If we sell it for 500,000, here's your transfer conveyance. All the numbers that we've put in, including some of the calculations, again, get transferred over to this final sheet that you're looking at right now, okay? And basically right now, if they were to offer 300,000, conservatively, they would make $28,000. Now, to some of you, we're like, well, that's not a lot. And to some of you, we're like, well, I would do that deal for 28,000, right? So everyone's going to have a different flavor of risk, right? And this is one thing I will point out right away is you might hear a lot of investors say, I will not touch anything if the cost, the ROI is not, 10% or higher. Fair, but that's their flavor, right, of risk that they're willing to work with, right? Because if that's what they will tell you, then in some markets, they might not get a deal for a long time, right? I can tell you when someone asks me, that question in San Diego, Randy, what is your company? What's your ROI? What are you guys looking for? I would say, I don't know. It depends on the deal, because I said, if you're going to give me this property that we're analyzing right here and tell me that this is a full gut and I got to like literally, knock out some walls, there's mold, there's this, and I have to put in 200,000 into a property, even though I might get it for 200,000 to buy, but now my repair number is 200. Technically, I'm still into it for 400, but my rehab is intense. I would want my rehab profit number to be larger when my rehab is more intense. If my rehab is not as crazy and it's just a quick in and out, nothing too crazy, then I'm willing to push my limits on my profit margins and make a little less. Also, I look at, well, am I buying a property that's a 2-1 that has no yard? Well, if I'm doing that, then guess what? I want my profit to be higher because my pool of buyers is smaller. There is more risk I'm taking on. But if I'm buying a property that's a 3-2 with a yard in a great neighborhood, with a driveway, with a garage, and it's your typical rehab for 100,000 inside and out, then I'm willing to maybe make 25K because I want multiple deals like that. That's how I did it. Now, again, you don't need to do it that way, but I'm sharing to you, if you're an agent listening and working with investors, you need to understand your investors' flavor. Like, how are they? I wouldn't ask them what the ROI is, to be honest. I would ask them, you know, if I presented you a property that's a 3-2, no negatives, beautiful neighborhood with an ARV of 500,000, what would you be okay making? I would rather know that number instead of the ROI, right? Because that can get you more deals potentially, right? And I can tell you a lot of investors are more like me, because when someone asks like, what ROI do you want? A lot of them, well, it depends on the deal. Tell me more information about the deal. And I'll let you know if I'm willing to push my limits on it, right? So that's how I made my decisions. And Eric, I'm wondering, how are your investors? Are they usually working of a specific ROI? Are they just more like, you know what, it's a deal by deal. Tell me the deal and I'll tell you if I'm in or not.
Yeah, it's deal by deal. Like if it's a really, really good area and they know that, like, because I was telling Randy before this, like this, I'm kind of counterintuitive. I run my numbers as conservatively as I can. So like I realistically feel like I can probably sell this for around 520. And most agents are going to obviously, push that up and say, well, I can sell this for 520. But I would rather tell my investors, like, 500. Let's be conservative. Market's been a little bit slower. And if I pulled up like the Zillow link, there's like, it's a nice area and it's on a lake and there's a lot of benefits, but also just with the way our market is, there's a lot of inventory. So, there's like 12, 13 other homes listed in the area. So I went a little bit more conservative on that, but also on like the rehab being 100K, I went over on that. Until we walk the property, I'll start knocking it down from that 100K. I work high and then I go low as we start to go through it. And we still keep like a good contingent in there, but it's deal per deal. I mean, I've had investors where I'm like, I wouldn't touch this deal, but they love the area and they know it. And they know that it's like, high growth, like even in Cincinnati where there's neighborhoods where it's like, yeah, I don't care if that's what your ARV is now. Like in 6 months when we wrap this up, we know they're kind of betting on appreciation. So I think it just kind of depends.
Yeah, perfect. And that's how I operated. And I find out a lot of investors, that's how they operate. So learn your investors kind of, how they analyze deals. If you're the
Yeah.
investor yourself and you're working with realtors, what I would do is actually educate the realtors on these numbers, because a lot of realtors are just not experienced working with investors. So if you're calling a listing agent, right, and you're telling them, hey, by the way, can you represent me? Like a lot of things we teach, or at least I do, is go through the listing agent if dual agency is allowed, right? So if the listing agent is also representing you, and you present them with an offer at 300,000 with no explanation of how you arrived at it, a lot of listing agents that never work with investors because they just maybe happen to get a listing that needed work fall in their lap, but that's not really where they operate as an agent, it might it might scare them. They might be like, wait, I have to present an offer at 300 to my client or 250? Like, what the heck? So what I would teach, I used to do this to myself, then I would teach my acquisitions guys to do this. I wanted my acquisitions guys to first get on the same page with the listing agent on these things. Like, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, by the way, before we, talk about the offer that we came up with, what do you think the property would sell for if it was fully renovated? I want to know what they're thinking, because if they think it's 550 and I think it's 500, we're already off by 50K just to start. So whatever offer I present to that listing agent, and I'm, even though I'm asking them to represent me and they might be excited to do so, they might feel weird presenting that low of an offer, or they might not want to do it with you, right? Work with you in the future, unless you educate them. Like, wait, by the way, so how did you come up with 550? Maybe I missed something. Can you send me those comps, right? And I would play naive and ask that agent to send me the comparables so I can start comparing and be like, hey, here's the comps I use. Here's your comps. Great. And what I'm trying to do is get on the same page with the agent that, hey, you know what? The after repair value is actually 500. Would you agree now? Oh yeah, you know what? You're right. I think that's a safer number. Or maybe I was wrong. And then I can increase it to 525, right? But I always wanted to be on the same page as an investor and the agent that's representing me on the after repair value, because all of the calculations start from there, right? What is the ARV? What is the actual repair cost? And then I would start educating the agent. So by the way, so we're on the same page on the ARV. Yes. Okay. So just so you know, Mr. Agent, I used a rehab amount of about 100,000 on this property. We're going to hold it for about 6 months. Yes, we say we use cash, but we pay interest on the cash. So we have financing costs, right, on the cash that we use, right? So I literally educate my agent so they understand how quickly money disappears, right? Because a lot of realtors, they just don't get it. Nothing against them, they're just not educated. I went as far as sending them a PDF of this. And I would be honest, like, look, if all goes perfect, right? Which it never does, and I chuckle, right? Because it never does, right? We are looking to make about $28,000 on this deal if we were to submit an offer with you at 300,000. So with everything I just told you, how do you feel about that, Mr. Agent? And I can tell you they take, it still shocks a lot of realtors, right? But then they can look at it from your point of view because I've explained how I arrived at that number and I'm not trying to make a killing. And I told them exactly what I'm looking to make if all goes perfect, right? And this is where I think a lot of investors or new realtors working with investors fail because they don't get on the same page with the realtor that they're about to submit an offer on behalf of their client, right? So just a side kind of education piece, right? But also it's kind of related to the deal analyzer because I literally would share this with them. And if any of you, I don't know if you have this type of a deal analyzer or not, but if you would like this, I'm more than happy to share with you guys. Eric, if you want to, can you type in my email, Randy at Realty National?
Yeah.
.com, and I'll email you guys this deal analyzer that we use because you're here in attendance. Because you're here live, you're going to get it as a gift. So congratulations. But there's a hand raised. So I'm going to go to Cornell. Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. So I have a quick question. I'm duly licensed as a realtor and lender, and I'm also certified as an express certified offer, whatever that means.
Yep.
The investors I work with, they don't want to see the property listed in the MLS. The investors you're referencing, do they care if any property is listed in MLS? Like you mentioned, Eric, you found it in MLS. Excuse me.
Yeah, I've definitely had investors that don't want deals on the market sent to them, but I will say, like, as a realtor, you can do marketing for off-market properties and do with that as you want. But that's something that we've had conversations with investors where it's just something that we like. If they want to do it, we'll help them. We'll help them target. We'll help take inbound leads and things like that. But we won't directly spend it. And I think a good thing to hit somebody back with if they're like, hey, I don't want a deal unless it's off market. It's like, okay, well, if I find you a good deal on market, you don't want me to send it to you. And most investors, if they're serious, they don't care whether it's on or off market. They just want the deal.
Yeah. So I don't want to get off topic. Good question. And I would answer real quick to you. I've built my whole investing business in San Diego when I was running that company for 7 years. We flipped 350 homes and 90% of them came from the MLS. So
Yeah.
if just find the investors that don't care, and I didn't care,
Okay.
right? So that's it. There's plenty of investors that they don't care where the deal comes from. The numbers make sense. They're going to go after it, right?
Yeah.
That's how I feel like it, but yeah. Okay, thank you, guys.
No problem. So let me show you the power of this, right? So imagine that Eric offered 350, right? All I do is I go here and just be like, all right, well, at list price, what would this look like? Negative 26,000. Congratulations. You got yourself a negative property, right? You're going to lose money at list price. If all these numbers are true. And I do think, 500 is good number because we are, in Tampa, from what I see, it's a buyer's market right now, right? So we have to be
Yeah.
conservative. And rehab costs, you might be right on the money here, dude, because quite honestly, what it used to cost me 70,000 to rehab a whole house, 100,000 goes quick now. So you might
Yeah.
be right there on this number, man. So with all that
The
said,
one thing with the 100 is we're like cheaper here in terms of like repairs. So that's what I was going to talk about when we were going to go through the property. Like a roof is going to cost about 15. Even if you're talking 10,000 for windows, it's going to put you at 25. There's not a ton. You can do hurricane windows and you might be like close to 30 altogether in between those two. The rest of it's just cosmetic. And at 1,900 a square foot, we typically try to multiply it out. And it's usually going to run for something like that, probably about 30 a square foot. But I think you can kind of get cheaper too, just because a lot of it, like flooring, paint, and then bathrooms, kitchen isn't terrible. So,
perfect.
but yeah, and I think I'd rather run it conservatively anyways and keep that
But
cushion in there too.
perfect. So let's assume that you lock this deal up, and honestly, this deal I would do all day for 28,000 and lock it up, personally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know that Land O'Lakes is great area. This property has everything that I want. It's got the great square footage. It's got minimum 3 bedrooms. It's got the garage, everything that a buyer wants. There's the biggest pool of buyers for this house. That's why I like it, right? I personally would say, you know what? I'm in, Eric. Let's go. Let's submit an offer at 300. I might even push myself a little bit, maybe 310. And maybe I would negotiate with Eric if I'm getting close, right? If I'm getting close to getting the deal, I would say, hey, Eric, what if we could maybe, can we do maybe like 2.5% to the buyer's agent and maybe 2.5% to you? Can we do it for 5% total? How you feel about that, Eric? And especially if the agent tells you that you'll get the deal done for that number. All right, cool. Thanks, Eric. Man, I appreciate that. Right. Let's work together. So now we lower that to 5%. I upped my purchase price by 10,000. I lowered Eric's fee to 5. He's a good realtor. He likes to work as a team. That's what I always like to work with. Agents that are not stuck in their ways and they're willing to be flexible to make deals happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, all right, 22,000. You know what? I haven't seen the property yet, but Eric, I trust you for now. Let's lock it up. Give me that, that 3-day or 4-day contingency for the septic. And if I go there and everything looks completely not what I thought, then whatever, we'll end up backing out. Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But I feel like I would lock something up in a very conservative number because Eric already understands how I work, right? He understands the ARV, which is the most important part of this whole investing game, right? So I trust him as well, but I also know that I have a potential out if I really need to back out. And then worst case, 22 is not terrible. Now, is that great? No, I would probably want to see personally minimum 25,000. But what I would probably start working on in the background is maybe I can lower some of my financing costs. And this is where things get interesting. So before I go there, Eric, what do you want to share?
Yeah, I was gonna say too, like, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but part of the reason this deal got sent out to multiple investors was it also had multiple exit strategies. So this was one that I think you could Airbnb, being on the lake, have some jet skis on the property, or like a canoe or kayak. Long-term rental, like this is like tons of rentals in this area, especially for the school district and stuff. So it might be one that you could burr. You're probably not going to cash flow a ton, but you get good appreciation with loan pay down. I think midterm would work. There's a lot of hospitals in the area, and this is near a really large. So I was going to say too, like, and that was included in my emails to my investors, was this wasn't just a flip. This was like 3 or 4 different outs on the property, which we try to look like. There typically has to be 2 for us to do it.
Got it. Yeah, and I think we were talking about maybe the next month we're going to do a similar thing, but on the rental analysis.
Yep.
So a deal analyzer for rentals. Because we don't have enough time to do it all in one, we're going to break it up. So check this out. So imagine I lock this property up, right? And I buy it and everything checks out. I buy the property, but then maybe, right before closing, I end up getting better money, right? This is where things get really interesting. So let's imagine I end up getting 100% private money instead of, so let's flip the script. Instead of hard money, I get private money. Well, actually, let's just use, let me just go back and use the top. I don't need to go through all the, so this is 5% we agreed on. So 0 points. So private money usually will pay 10 to 12%. So let's just say I got a private money lender at 12% with no points, right? And I slipped it in there right before closing. What would that make me? All right, now it's already 30 grand. I eliminated 2 points because I was able to find private money because I knew I had a good deal. I was a week away from closing. I brought it to some people that I know and they were willing to lend on it, right? And I just shaved off $8,000 in expenses, right? So there's 30,000, right? Then what could happen, maybe not, you know, in Tampa right now, because we're in a buyer's market, but in San Diego, what could happen, right? We might sell this property before it even like gets fully, you know, hits the market, right? Because there's buyers, there's lack of inventory. So imagine I close on the property with private money, I'm renovating it, and a buyer approaches me and wants to buy it off my hands. All of a sudden, guess what happens? I talk to Eric, I still pay him his 2.5% because I approved, you know, I agreed to pay him no matter what. So now I don't have to pay a buyer's agent because they reached out to me directly. So my commission goes down. Staging, I guess we're not doing staging anyway. So because Eric's investors don't like staging. So there's nothing there. And then our holding time would not be 6 months. We probably would be in and out of it then in 4 months. If I find a buyer during my renovation, there's a high probability that I'm going to get it off my books faster because the 6 months calculates buying, rehabbing, and putting it on the market for 30 days, and then an escrow for another 30 minimum, right? And in market 30 days in Tampa now, it might be more, right? But if I'm in San Diego in a seller's market, and I get a buyer right away, then my hold time gets shaved off. Look what it does to the number. 52,000. Like 52 already. And I changed 2.5%, and then it went from 6 months to 4 months, right? And I literally just doubled my returns. So I was about to make 22, 23 when I was acquiring the property, but then I exit and make 52. Now, I would not make a buying decision, assuming that this will happen, right? You never want to do that. This is all great. This is all bonus, right? But but I've seen investors buy properties with all of these crazy assumptions. Oh, the market is going to keep going up, and I'm going to make an extra. I'll sell it for more than the last comp because the appreciation. And no. Like, you can't make those assumptions because that's how you get out of the business quick. Or if you're a realtor working with that type of an investor, they might buy that property with you. You'll make your commission, and then you'll never do a deal with them again because they're going to lose their shirt and lose their company right there.
Yep.
Right. And most likely they're going to blame you for it. Unfortunately, you, the realtor.
Yeah.
Even though maybe, it wasn't even your fault, but they will roll you right into that. Right. So I'd rather stay conservative. Don't make a lot of these optimistic assumptions, but I want to show you how quickly the numbers change. And I don't have to calculate this in my head. I don't have to do it on a napkin. I don't have to whip out my own calculator and Excel sheet. It's all done already in this deal analyzer, right? And I can literally just change a few numbers and I could see the potential of any property within minutes. So I wanted just to share the power of something like this. If you're working with investors as an agent, ask them, hey, by the way, do you have a deal analyzer that you run your numbers through? And if you do, would you mind sharing it with me so I can basically do it for you and not waste your time with the wrong deals? And a lot of investors have something like this. If they don't, then you could be the one that says, hey, you know what? I have this deal analyzer that I use to calculate offers real quick for my investor clients. Would you like to take a look at it? And then I'll send it over to you. And let's get together on whatever, Monday or Friday, and let's dial in these yellow numbers and your financing costs. So that way I don't have to change them every single time, right? And I would say, okay, so usually when you buy your properties, Mr. Investor, what is your financing? How do you get it? Oh, I get private money. Great. So now you understand how they acquire, how they, what are all the costs, and you can put it all in here. So then you can run all of the information for them in your deal analyzer based on the data they gave you, right? And it will save you a lot of time. It will make you look very professional to the investor, guaranteed, if they didn't have anything to begin with. And believe me, or some investors, they do not have anything. They just use like the Mayo stuff. And I'm like, how are you even doing this business? Right. But regardless,
Yeah.
it will make you look like a professional.
I will say the guy that I did, my number one investor in Cincinnati that we did 50 flips with, he did Mayo. And every single time, like, we nailed it. Like, it's just like we'd walk, like, he'd know I'd send the property. Like, within 10 seconds, he'd be like, yep, deal works. Or like, thumbs down. We'd be at the property the next day with like an offer accepted and closing. So, like, for some people, it works. We never used a deal analyzer. But I also know that, like, this is more, I also think if you're a realtor and you want to show your investors, like, hey, look, this is your possible, takeaway. This is the best way to do it because it's very detailed and dialed in. And if you're having a hard time getting people to pull the trigger on investment properties, this is the way to do it. Present numbers like this and in this kind of presentation, and your investors are going to, they're going to have no problem pulling the trigger.
Yep. And what you'll find on this deal analyzer, for some of you that are going to request it, you're going to see a repair estimator in here as well. And this is, general, right? This is not per market. But if you're new to the investor world as a realtor, or even as an investor, this can get you in the ballpark of what that rehab amount will be. Okay. So you can literally go through this and fill in, if it needs a roof, and it will auto calculate it based on the information you put in. I didn't fill this in, but if I put in the square footage right here, I think it was like almost 2,000. It's one unit, 2,000. It was 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. But if you go to the repair estimator and you put roof, yes or no, it should auto calculate. Oh, maybe it's not auto calculating. All right. Well, I'll get you the version that it will. It should auto calculate based on the numbers that I have here. So that's interesting why it's not doing it. Let's see. So someone must have messed around with this one, but nevertheless, I'll get you the one that works. But then this will calculate it. And the way this is designed, oh yeah, someone messed around with this one. Okay. The way this is designed is that this number, this after repair value, in the one I give you, is going to get pulled into right here, this number. Estimated repair cost is going to get pulled from this total right here. Okay, automatically. I don't have the time to go through this, right? And Eric wouldn't either. So what I do is I just overwrite this and I just type it in, right? But I'm just letting you know that it's the one I'll give you if you're requesting one, it's going to be pulling the repair number from what the total is right here, okay? And dumping it into this field, and it will dump it automatically into this field, right? What I do, I overwrite it, right? Because when you're just analyzing deals and I already are given these numbers, what the repair cost is, I'm not going through the repair estimator. I just overwrite this personally, and that's it, right? That's what I did here. But I just want to let you know what's in here, right? And how it calculates it. So I can't see the chat right now, but Eric, is there any questions on the deal analyzer or just overall just analysis of deals, numbers wise?
We had 2 questions while we were doing it. I'll start with the one that had to do with this. When you get a better private money loan, how do you communicate canceling with the previous lender? Always maintain relationships. Like if you are gonna switch lenders, make sure you let the other one know respectfully and just let them know why you're kind of going that route. But I think Addison can speak to this. Lenders are used to that happening, so it's not uncommon. Even my hard money lenders are used to it happening. That was the only one on the deal analyzer. If anybody else has any other questions, I can answer this one too, or try to. Regarding the recent NAR DOJ proposal, how do we deal with the buyer's realtor commission since going forward, we probably can't disclose it anymore in the MLS? That's just a question that's going to be more like ask your brokerage. It's going to be regional. I think it's going to be different for every area. Not something that we'll be able to necessarily give advice on.
But I
As
would
we see
still,
change there, we can
yeah,
calculate it. Still calculate it.
I would still calculate it. You're paying it. Don't assume that all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're not paying a buyer's broker. So as investors, nothing will change for us in terms of costs, right? So
Yep.
I'm going to assume pay a buyer's agent 2.5% or 3%, depending where you are in the market, and don't get cheap. That's not where you want to get cheap. You want to expose your property to as many people as possible. So,
Yep.
and that's a whole different conversation. If you're, a buyer's agent working with investors and you have to have a buyer broker agreement, you probably want to have an open-ended one, right? Because they probably won't commit to you only. But
Yeah.
that's a conversation for today.
Any other questions on the deal analyzer before we go? We got 1 minute. If not,
was this helpful? Can anyone speak up? Go ahead.
This is amazing, guys. I'm very impressed. First time here. I really want that deal analyzer, Randy. And yeah, I'm getting excited about it because I do see properties that I can probably follow the path that you did, Eric. You have, and you actually, Randy. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, play
No,
around.
absolutely.
Play around with it.
This deal analyzer, because I've worked with it and I really enjoy it. But when I was working with investors back in 2008, 2010, I wish I had this because it would have made life a lot easier.
Right.
I know, right, Jim? I know, Jim. Jim's got this one, so he knows all about this deal analyzer. Cool. All right. Any other comments, questions? Good.
Hey, Randy, can you hear me? This is
Yeah,
Ricardo.
Ricardo. Yeah, what's up?
Oh, hey, so I was just wondering, in your view, like how would mastering this process allow us to, or allow agents, realtors to add more value to new investors, especially, but even other investors, similarly, like adding value to all buyers, by mastering this process. I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I would sit down with your investor, right? Or have a Zoom with them. But before even that, like I mentioned earlier, I would ask the investors you were planning on working with, hey, by the way, I would say, hey, I have a deal analyzer that I use to quickly calculate offers for my investors. Once I understand kind of your financing costs and just basically what you like to do, right? When you acquire properties, right? Do you have a deal analyzer that you use that you can share with me, or should I continue using mine? And if so, I need to ask a few questions, such as how do you get your money? Is it hard money? Is it private money? Right? Because can we do a Zoom so I can show it to you live and we can make the edits together, right? Right there on the spot. And I think if you use sort of, a version of this language that I just gave you, it will absolutely make you look professional, right? That's what you want to come across. Like, wait, because if I'm that investor and then you tell me that, like, wait, you have a deal as a realtor, you have a deal analyzer for your investors? Wow, that's cool. I might say, yeah, I have my own and I don't mind sharing it with you. Great, not a problem. But either way, the seed was planted that I'm a professional agent. I know what I'm doing. And you could be submitting your first offer ever, right? They wouldn't even know. So
yeah, the reason I was asking was because I've had people that want to learn investing, and and I've told them, if you master analyzing a deal, looking for a deal, that'll allow you to recognize it wherever you're at, even networking wise. So I was just curious your take for other people on here, because getting this down, it's the start to a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, and then I think if you were here on the beginning, I also leveraged it when I'm submitting offers with realtors, and I would literally, some realtors, I would give them a PDF of this, like this page right here, right? So they could see all of the expenses that my investor, or in this case, we were the investors, that we're paying. So they're not like, they can't say I'm lowballing. It's like, because keep in mind, this is not the number. 39 was not the number. Initial number was 22,000. Like, that's not a lot of money to take on the risk as an investor. In many cases, our realtors are making more money in San Diego than us. It's like, come on, so, one, you got to understand your investor. What is their flavor? What's their risk, right? Are they more volume based? Are they more doing 3, 4, 5 deals a year? I can tell you those investors, they probably want the profitability to be higher. Like, you need to know those things, right? And then I would create a deal analyzer for each investor, right? A template for each one of your investor clients, so you don't have to mess around with them, right? You already have all the things plugged in, all the things that you won't edit, right? And every investor has a template. Boom, 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 right? This is what allowed me, like, I literally would give this to my 3 interns from college. We're able to master this within minutes, and we were able to submit, 20, 30 offers a week because of things like this, right? First, you need to understand how to comp. So you need to learn the market and how to comp quick, but then you need to know how to quickly analyze the deal in terms of numbers, this is the tool. So they would have the MLS open for comps. They would have the deal analyzer open, and then they would be submitting offers just of those 2 things, right? And if you do it over and over again, it's a numbers game. So when I was telling you, Cornell, that 90% of our deals came from the MLS because of this. Like, we were submitting a lot of offers though. So everything is a numbers game. When you're dealing with MLS, you just got to be prepared that you got to submit a lot of offers. Some will stick. And I will tell you this, and I'm sure Eric is going to do this. You follow up. You got to follow up. So even though Eric lost on the deal for now, there's a high probability that the person that locked it up might fall out of contract, right?
Yeah. This one's already back on market. So, it's not back on market, but this is its second time falling out and going back under contract.
Yeah, so we got a lot of our deals off the MLS, but on the second try, because the first investor wasted their time. Guess what? Seller motivation goes up, right? To just get the deal done with the right buyer, even if it means less money, right? And if we have a good reputation with the realtors and they know we close, they'll go with our offer. They'll get it accepted on the second round. And this is another thing that investors like fail at miserably. They don't track the properties that they submit offers on, that they lose on. They move on to the next one, and they never track and follow up on the ones that they actually lost on. But that's where you get your actual deals, most of them, on the follow-up.
How do you find investors?
Oh, man, it's so easy. There's a training we did. I want to stop because we're over time, but go through our trainings on YouTube. We actually have a training there, Cornell, exactly about that topic. On how to find investors and how to be how to become the go-to realtor for investors. I think that's the title of the training on our YouTube channel. All right, guys, we're over time, but thank you so much. See you guys next month, and successful investing.
Thank you, guys.
Later.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.